What is up, RotoGrinders? We got some NFL pre-luck Monday night edition for you. Happy holidays. Hope your Christmas has gone smoothly. Happy last day of Hanukkah, whatever else you're celebrating. Hope it's been restful. Hope it's been joyous. I am joined today by Keith Eyster. How you doing today?
Good, man. Hope everybody had a great holiday season, like you said. Always a good time of the year. Been a weird weekend with the Saturday main NFL slate, and then Sunday was more of an NBA day, and now we're Monday Night Football. Like, days are all running together. Just a crazy time of year.
It's all happening all at once. It's a lot of fun, except that football and the NBA slate yesterday were kind of just meh, if I'm being honest. But I ended up making some money back on the NBA late slate last night. So that's what we're here to help you do. Make some money, and we're going to be doing it with the Monday Night Football game today. And one of the ways you can do that is scoresandodds.com. We've got you covered, the number one place for all things sports betting. Check it out for everything you need to make yourself a better sports bettor, especially the brand new Parlay IQ tool now with FanDuel Sportsbook integration. Build your optimized same-game parlay based on thousands of simulated games data, and with a click of a button, you can bring that bet slip directly into the FanDuel Sportsbook. As you can see, we have some stuff up here from the Chargers and Colts game that we're going to be talking tonight. And I think first things first, we are going to get started here on DraftKings. But before we start building ourselves a little lineup, what's your overview of this slate? We got the Chargers favored by 3.5. How do you think this one's gonna go?
Yeah, just real quick, jumping back to Parlay IQ, we've got that Deion Jackson over 1.5 receptions prop popping quite a bit, but the juice on it is minus 166. So that's a great thing to throw into a parlay. So just a great example of how to use that. You obviously don't really want to pay minus 166 juice on a single prop, but throwing that in a parlay, that seems like a great idea to do today. You mentioned the spread 3.5 in favor of the Chargers. So I think Deion Jackson's going to play a pretty big role in this one. Very clearly defined roles, in my opinion, in the Colts backfield. And I think that's an important key to this slate. I think you want Zach Moss in a game that the Colts are leading, and I think you want Deion Jackson in a game that the Colts are trailing. So very important distinction right off the bat. They're both kind of priced up because Jackson doesn't have the greatest role, I don't believe, if they're winning, and Moss doesn't have a great role if they're losing. Personally, I like the Chargers to win this one, despite being short road favorites. But I'm going to be way overweight on Deion Jackson, way underweight on Zach Moss, just because that's how I see the game playing out. When I'm playing Zach Moss, I like playing him in the captain or MVP, just because I think his path to getting there is the Colts playing from ahead. He sees those 20 plus carries again. And if he finds the end zone once or twice, that's really the way this game slows down. But yeah, I like the Chargers to win this one. I'm going to build heavy with Chargers. Love Deion Jackson and Michael Pittman coming back on the other side. How about you?
Very, very similar strategy for me today, and I agree with you completely on the Deion Jackson versus Zach Moss scenario. You put Zach Moss, you pair him with the Colts defense. You play him in your builds that you think the Colts are going to win today, and I like captaining him as well. And then Deion Jackson, I'm going to get more of because I'm playing a lot of Charger heavy lineups today. It's kind of crazy we've gone this long without talking about it, but we have Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles starting this game for the Indianapolis Colts today. Do you have any interest in getting to Foles in general at the captain position? And then we'll start building this lineup.
So I'm a Bears fan, and I suffered through a season of Nick Foles starting quarterback. He's not that guy that won a Super Bowl MVP. He's had a couple of big performances in his career, but I don't feel like he's that guy anymore. I feel like the Colts lean pretty run heavy, especially to start out here. I do see them falling behind and having to go pass heavier than they want to. So I'll have some, but I'm not using him in the top spot, captain or MVP, and I will probably be slightly under the field despite having a pretty attractive ownership number. Tough Chargers defense. I kind of feel like the Chargers pull away in this one quite a bit, and I'm more interested in the Colts pass catchers for volume than I am with Nick Foles.
I think that makes sense. We already have some QQs in the YouTube chat. Hit the like button. Give me 25 likes before we start looking over there for NFL questions. And of course, as we always do, we will be looking towards our RotoGrinders premium Discord for questions first. I see a couple people chatting there already as well. So we'll be looking there first for questions. 25 likes on the YouTube, and I'll be starting to look over there as well. So make sure you guys hit the like button over there. Helps us a lot, and we do also appreciate it. All you got to do is slide your finger, give it a little click. You're watching on your phone. You got to hit the hide chat button, give it a little click, and you are good to go. So, Keith, when we are building our lineups here, we're talking optimal. Whether maybe this is cash, maybe this is a single game entry. It's in a lot of contests with not a very big, not a, what's the word I'm looking for? Contest size. It's not very big. You know, we're trying to double up, or we're trying to beat 10 people. We're trying to be optimal here. Keith, get with it. Who are we going with? Is it Justin Herbert or is it Austin Eckler?
That's the question right there. I think it's a razor thin margin between those two. Like even our projections are razor thin. It's literally a coin flip for me. If I was forced to choose one, I'd probably take the savings with Herbert. I like what you can do with the lineup a little bit better. There's a couple of really cheap Colts pass catchers that I love a ton that you can squeak into that lineup with Herbert at captain, where you probably have to do something a little different with Eckler at captain. So that's slight savings. I know it's not very much, but it's just enough for me. And you feel a little bit safer about Herbert as well. The Chargers will mix in Joshua Kelly a little bit, especially in games that they're like absolutely blowing teams out. They'll just hand it off to Josh Kelly. Eckler's not the guy they're going to use to kill the clock. That's going to be Kelly. So I do see a slight potential for loss of volume for Eckler if the Chargers do in fact end up blowing them out. So I lean slightly to Herbert in this one. Very close though.
I like it. I think kind of honestly for me, how it goes is where touchdowns mean a little bit more and that price doesn't matter. It's Eckler for me on DraftKings and it's Herbert for me on FanDuel, or sorry, Herbert for me on DraftKings and Eckler on FanDuel for me today. And so we got Herbert's in there. I feel like if we're playing optimally today, we basically just have to plug in Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler and figure out the rest later. Are you on the same page?
I am on the same page. I think they're very clearly the top two plays on the slate. I think a very interesting decision point is going to come up next. Eckler's the first guy in. Even with Herbert, Eckler does all of his damage through the passing game. That correlates very nicely to Herbert. So generally when building a quarterback captain lineup, I want two pass catchers. I certainly include Austin Eckler in the Chargers group of pass catchers.
Love it. And so if we are prioritizing Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler, we need some value here. If we sort by value, we got Mo Alley Cox projected for 4 points here at $200. Jordan Wilkins is supposed to be dressing for this one. Donald Parham is always a guy that gets some looks in the red zone. These are kind of $100 options. But we also got some stuff that's not bad here in the mid-range with the kickers and the 4Ks, Chase McLaughlin, and my personal favorite value play that would be the first person I'd be plugging into this sort of lineup, Gerald Everett.
Okay. I don't mind the Everett call. Very cheap price. I certainly like that. I mentioned going kind of double cheap with the Colts. I think you have a little bit more money to spend than the Everett range if you do that type of build. But I certainly don't hate the Everett call. I like the over in this game. We're indoors in a dome. We dealt with weather all weekend long. Don't have to worry about any of that. The Chargers are a pass heavy offense. Certainly would not try to talk you off of Everett if you want to go that route. I like both of the Colts values. And not all, you mentioned Alley Cox. He's like the cheap bottom of the barrel punt type. You could certainly do that. But there is in the 2K range that have legitimate roles in this offense. It's Alec Pierce for me, who has basically operated as the number 2 wide receiver the past couple of weeks. And then you have Jelani Woods, who is the tight end 1 at 2,800 with Kylan Granson missing this game. So both of those Colts pass catchers, I think, offer a phenomenal amount of value at very cheap price tags.
So with that, we have Jelani Woods, 2.8, Mo Alley Cox for like both of them are potentially enticing options here. I guess if somebody wants to go the full punt route and they're getting Alley Cox in there, who do you prefer between Woods and Alec Pierce?
Oh man, I love both of them a lot. I think similar to what you
and I
said.
guess in a lineup that has Ali Cox, would that make you not want to play Jelani Woods, or do you not care about rolling double tight end?
I'm okay with rolling double tight ends in tournaments. Like if Ali Cox catches a touchdown, he's going to be useful on this slate. And that's kind of how I feel about it, is the tight end position is more touchdown dependent, where Alec Pierce could catch 6 or 8 balls and get there through volume without finding the end zone. For that reason, I think you break it down by site. Like you were saying with the captain and the MVP, touchdowns are more important on FanDuel. So I certainly lean to Woods on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it would be slightly Alec Pierce for me. But again, they're two of my favorite plays and will be the majority of my Colts ownership here.
Love it. All right. So I think that kind of shows who we're leaning to kind of with this build here. Don't want to give the full lineup away, but if we're talking tournaments, we're trying to get different here. Start me off at the captain position. Who is you're playing tons of lineups today. You're rolling out a bunch. You're rolling out 150. Who do you want to get significantly overweight on at the captain position in DraftKings? For me, it's going to be Zach Moss at 10-5 with that very specific build of I'm throwing in a Colts defense. I think the Colts win this game on the back of Zach Moss. And then the other ones I don't mind just from a value perspective taking a shot on would be like Mo Alley Cox. What if Mo Alley Cox catches 2 touchdowns today? And you have him in that MVP position, you load up on all your expensive Chargers. I think that is somewhat interesting. But based on the rest of these ownerships, I think I would rather go just like way off the board, something like that. Or just keep optimal with my Herbert and my Eckler, because I do feel like that's such a good chance of happening, and differentiate somewhere else. The last one I'd probably want to touch on, just because anytime there's a quarterback who is picking up almost no ownership in the captain position, it's interesting for tournament, then that's Nick Foles.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you said there. Very important points on Herbert and Eckler. Like you look at ownership generally, and of course we want to differentiate our lineup somewhere. But on this particular slate, I think Herbert and Eckler are the optimal captain half the time probably. So I agree. I would want to be overweight on them, even though they're showing the highest ownership percentage here. I think my guy that I'm going at least double the field on is Mike Williams. And that's because I'm going underweight on Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is the volume guy. He certainly can score a touchdown, but really he's more of the 10 reception, move the chains type of guy, where Mike Williams is the guy who catches the long touchdown passes. He can go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns here on like 6 catches. So I love the upside of Mike Williams. I will have more of him than Keenan Allen. And then Alec Pierce, I think, is just for the price. At 4,200, he's a guy I could see catching a bunch of balls here. If the Colts fall way behind and end up in a very pass-heavy script, like we did not see that with Ellinger ever. They did it with Matt Ryan a bunch, but that was kind of before the coaching change. So we have new territory here with Nick Foles at quarterback. We're not really sure who he's favoring. Those cheap Colts pass catchers, I think, are very interesting. And then you mentioned Zach Moss as well. Like the only place I'm playing him is I'm playing for that 2 touchdown game where he smashes and you have to have him. I'll fade him in the flex spot, but I do like him as a captain or MVP.
Love it. We got a QQ on Discord that is kind of relevant to this. 2 of them that are kind of relevant to this conversation. For a contrarian lineup, what do you think about a Colts pass catcher like Pittman or Campbell at Campbell at captain? But then going with the script of the Colts having to play from behind, so maybe they catch some late touchdowns to get there. You're playing some Eckler. Maybe you squeeze in. You're playing some Herbert. Maybe you even squeeze in a little Josh Kelly as a value piece. What do you think about that build?
Yeah, I do like that build. And generally, when I build for showdowns, I want the team I think is going to win. I want to use them in the captain. But the pricing on this slate makes that difficult because Herbert's priced up, Eckler's priced up, Allen's priced up. Even Mike Williams is pretty expensive. What playing a cheaper Colts pass catcher in the captain like Campbell or Alec Pierce, if they catch 8 passes and put up a pretty decent score for their price, it also allows you to get in that lineup Herbert, Eckler, and then your favorite of, say, Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, which is a very attractive thing because if Herbert spreads the touchdowns around, Eckler runs for 1, you might need multiple of those expensive Chargers guys. So I do like that construction of playing a cheap Colts pass catcher in the captain, even though I think the Chargers win this one pretty easily.
Another DraftKings question before we swap over to FanDuel. Who is your must? You got a DraftKings cash value play. Sorry, we're talking value, not Eckler, not Herbert, but we're playing both of those. Who is the first person that you're like, all right, DraftKings cash, this is the value play I want to build around?
Alec Pierce is the guy that makes the most amount of sense for the price. I mean, he's only 2,800. You don't need him to do a ton. He lets you pay up for some of these studs. I'm looking up what 77% of the snaps last week. I'm sorry, that was Campbell. 69% of the snaps last week, 65% on the season. So for 2,800, you're getting a guy who's out there almost 3/4 of the time. Alec Pierce is the guy.
For tournaments, I really like the idea of, with everybody probably going to Pierce and Jelani Woods in this range, playing some Ashton Doolin. I think that's somewhat interesting. He's a bit of a gadget player they've been using a little bit. And my personal favorite, like, value, I think, on DraftKings is just going to be that $200 Mo Alley Cox. When it's somebody's $200, you really just get to do whatever the heck you want with the rest of your lineup. Pivoting over to FanDuel here. YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. We're 2 away from getting some QQs answered over there as well. But before we do that, let's talk FanDuel, because we know we're going to have 2 very nice people hitting the like button for us, getting it up there, helping us out. So FanDuel MVP here. I like Eckler over Herbert, and I think it's interesting. We get the discount for Herbert on DraftKings, and that matters on DraftKings. And his ownership is actually less than Eckler, where the scoring system, I guess, yes, Eckler is a pass catching back, so it does really help him there with that 4 as well. But I think it's interesting where the savings doesn't matter, and we want him to be scoring some touchdowns. And Austin Eckler is actually less owned on FanDuel at the MVP position than he is on DraftKings, with Herbert being the most the highest owned MVP here. Who is your go-to for optimals? For me, it's going to be Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. And the price multiplier, FanDuel not having that, I think is an important piece of that. I mentioned that savings for Herbert on DraftKings was useful.
Exactly. That's kind of why it's weird to me that their ownerships are kind of flipped. To me, that should
it's the Herbert PPR thing. Like, you get a full point for the Eckler receptions, and that's generally how he gets there, is a bunch of receptions. So the scoring definitely favors Herbert on FanDuel. But I agree. Like, I think Eckler is slightly safer. I think the only way he doesn't see a ton of volume here is if the Chargers absolutely blow them out. But even in that scenario, Eckler probably has a touchdown or 2. So probably fine. I love the floor of Eckler. Absolutely.
And then when we shoot to the flex here, are we doing the same thing? Are we jamming in both Eckler and Justin Herbert?
Yes, I think so.
Absolutely, 100%. Because, like, it's not that tough today. People aren't that expensive. Like, FanDuel does have these running backs priced up here. And honestly, that has me wondering, are either of them optimal? You know what I mean? Like, when we get in a game that, if we think they're going to be coming from behind, like Deion Jackson, 11K, but only projected for 8 points here, is there any point of spending in an optimal setting for any of these mid-tier indie guys when we could just, like you mentioned, we have Granson out? That's 7K of Jelani Woods, 6K of Mo Alley Cox. That does look like, and then we got also down here 8.5 Gerald Everett. Tight ends are usually nice and cheap here on FanDuel. Do we want to go for some savings so that we can get some Mike Williams or Keenan Allen in our lineup too? Or are you thinking, if we're going to be playing with the Eckler as the MVP, Herbert in this lineup too, Colts are playing from behind, we're going to need some Deion Jackson?
No, so Deion Jackson was absolutely DraftKings only play. Like, I think the value from Jackson comes through his receptions. He certainly has a chance to rush for, I don't know, 100 yards is probably in the range of outcomes. I don't think it's very likely. And he has some touchdown equity, but I would certainly give the edge there to Zach Moss. So Deion Jackson is my preferred play on DraftKings because of receptions. Here on FanDuel, where you only get half a point per reception, I don't like Deion Jackson near as much. In fact, I would have Zach Moss over him as a flex play. But because I don't think that's the most likely game script or outcome, I agree. I would much rather just go down to the tight ends. That's why I said I preferred Woods on FanDuel. His price over here is extremely attractive.
Exactly. I agree 100%. He's the third player to me that is a must for my cash game. Like he fits so darn well. If we are starting with those three here, it allows you the opportunity to go, hey, I like one of those running backs. I'm going to fit him in. Or, hey, I want Mike Williams. I want Keenan Allen. And it still allows the rest of your lineup to work here. Or, hey, maybe you even want to get Nick Foles, the other QB, in there in that as well. So all of that fits in pretty well. The Eckler and Herbert build is the way that we want to roll on both sites. And then on FanDuel here, we're both in agreement that Jelani Woods is the best source of optimal salary saving options. And he's not even that getting that much ownership either, which is nice. Other salary saving options I like on FanDuel for tournaments: Donald Parham Jr., Mo Alley Cox, Ashton Dulin, and Josh Kelly. Those are the three that I'm trying to get to kind of in abundance if I were playing lots and lots of lineups. Not very many people get into those guys today, and I think I just like going with the idea of punting with some of the lower owned guys so I can get more Eckler, get more Herbert. And then if I'm trying to get contrarian at the MVP position today, no one is going to be chalky other than Herbert or Eckler. I would rather play Foles on DK just because he's the third highest owned guy over here. And on DraftKings, he's like 6th or 7th. And so just based on that, I'd rather play Foles over there. And if I'm trying to get different with the MVP position here, I'm looking at somebody like we mentioned, Zach Moss in a game that we think they're going to win, or a Chargers defense team who knows how this Indy offense is going to look, probably all not that good. Mike Williams, a guy that could catch 2 50-yard bombs at 5% ownership, I think is very interesting. But from a game script standpoint, I think one of the most interesting MVPs you can use on FanDuel to get super different in a 150 max setting is actually going to be Josh Kelly.
I love it. I was wondering if you were going to get all the way down there because I definitely wanted to make a point to highlight him. I don't love it on DraftKings near as much, where he basically has to score to be viable. And that's probably the situation on FanDuel as well. But 7K is a fantastic discount to the Zach Moss type. And I think this is a very similar play to Zach Moss. I could even see Josh Kelly being an optimal MVP if it's a low scoring game and he's the one that finds the end zone, just because of the way the FanDuel scoring works out, where you don't have the yardage bonuses to worry about. And you only get the half-point PPR. Like Josh Kelly is getting there through touchdowns. If he scores 2 touchdowns here, I could absolutely see him being an optimal MVP.
Love it. And so 2 QQs, 1 QQ from me here, Keith, and then we're going to get crush these YouTube ones. I'm making 2 lineups today. One is my main lineup, and then one is just a single entry in the FanDuel $9. I got some plans tonight, and I'm not going to be watching the game. I didn't want to go too heavy. In my random bullet single entry $9 team, I'm rolling with that Josh Kelly MVP. It's a Chargers onslaught. Should my last piece be Chase McLaughlin or Deion Jackson?
I think I would lean the kicker there just because I feel like they trust Zach Moss to have the rushing role. I think they lean on Zach Moss pretty heavily to begin the game.
But if I'm going Kelly MVP, it's like
that's true.
I think this is going to be 30-0 at some point in the game.
Yes, and I love that game script build. I struggle with the half-point PPR for Deion Jackson because I think that's where so much of his value comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the salary. It doesn't matter. It's a straight 1v1, no salary. Doesn't matter. Like
correct.
You just leave the 1,500 or whatever it is on the table.
Yeah, correct. I'm gonna roll with McLaughlin. He's just been putting up a bunch of points all year, and Jackson has only had 1 game over 10.5 on FanDuel. So we're gonna just roll with the kicker. Popping over to some QQs here. What do we think about Donald Parham? $400 on DK. Herbert likes using him in the end zone.
Yeah, haven't seen him. He's missed most of the year. So I think a very interesting play. Showing minimal ownership on him. Even Ali Cox is cheap though, so I think like I don't know, ownership isn't really affecting my decision there. I'm totally on board with it. Like I don't know that he's going to see the field, but if he catches a touchdown, just exactly what we said about Ali Cox, like he's going to be useful if he can catch that touchdown. And the point is true that they do like to use him in the red zone.
I'm going to only probably use him in lineups that I have Justin Herbert as my captain or my MVP. And then otherwise, I think I'd probably just rather Ali Cox if I'm rolling with somebody like Eckler. In a DK GPP, who do you like better in a vacuum, Pittman or Deion Jackson? For me, this is Michael Pittman, but it really depends on it doesn't depend on my lineup because I like them in the same situation. So it's Pittman.
I agree. Pittman has more upside. And the price is like surprisingly up there on Deion Jackson, which leaves him with a very nice ownership number. But in a vacuum, I agree. It's clearly Pittman over Jackson.
Is Jordan Wilkins in play on FanDuel? 6,500. He's getting 1% ownership right now.
Let me just look at kind of what he's done here. 3 carries.
If I was running 150 lineups, I would probably have 3 with Jordan Wilkins.
Yeah, like very minimal. Like it's a stretch to see him a role where he's getting there. I think they like Deion Jackson as that pass catching back. I don't see the role for him unless it's a blowout. So maybe in a lineup like you're saying where you play your Joshua Kelly, then you don't really need the savings in that lineup either. Mm-hmm. So that's
kind of what I mean. If I'm running 150, I'll throw him in a lineup where I'm leaving 5, 6, 10K on the table.
Yep. I think you want him in a blowout. That's the way he gets 10 carries or 10 opportunities in the spot.
But this is more of if you are building 150 lineups type scenario. Popping back over to Discord, would you play Pierce and Wood together on FanDuel? To me, that's only if you have Nick Foles in your lineup.
Yeah, so they're DraftKings plays for me. Woods is any play anywhere, but Pierce is similar to Deion Jackson in that his value comes through receptions. Like I don't know that he can score a touchdown. He obviously can score a touchdown. It's just not very likely. So yeah, I struggle to see both of them scoring is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like going with somebody like, since Pierce is picking up some ownership, just go crazy off the board with Ashton Doolin. Hope he gets like an end around that he breaks. Go Josh Kelly, mix in some Donald Parham or Mo Alley Cox. Hope they score a touchdown today. I think I actually like that a little bit better than Alec Pierce, just because he is still getting some ownership on FanDuel, and I don't like
Josh Kelly would be my favorite play in that 7-8K range.
1 more minute to lock. Make sure your lineups are in. Click save. And make sure you also hit the like button for us here. To those of you who are watching on YouTube, we thank you so much for tuning in to us to our show today, hanging out with us. We've been here throughout the holidays. Hopefully you are not sick of me yet. I was here on Christmas Eve, here on Christmas Day. Now in Canada, we like to call the 26th Boxing Day. It's basically our version of Black Friday where everything's nice and cheap. And then guess what? I'm pretty sure I'm on this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the whole thing. So hopefully you're not too sick of me yet. Hit the like button. Keith, do you got anything before we get out of here?
No, I don't think I have anything else. We covered it all. Give me your best guess at optimal captain. I will go with Mike Williams.
Mike Williams. I love it. I think it is going to be Austin Eckler today. The 2 lineups that I rolled out on FanDuel. My main one that I'm going today, I got Austin Eckler in the MVP, Justin Herbert, Nick Foles, Mo Alley Cox, and Jelani Woods. I rolled with both of the tight ends in there so I could fit a dual QB lineup. I was tempted to go with Keenan Allen or Mike Williams there, but I just figured, that makes more sense if Herbert's if Herbert is my MVP. If Eckler's already there, I want him scoring the TDs. My other lineup I got Kelly there at that MVP position in the $9, 100K to first. Let's see how owned he is. What do you think Josh Kelly is going to be in the MVP position on FanDuel?
Oh, it's sub 5%, I would bet. I'll go 3.5%.
0.2.
Very
Hopefully we can do that to make some money today. I don't
Good
even
luck,
want it to be of an Austin Eckler injury though, because never want to root for injuries, and the lineup also has Eckler.
No,
So,
just root for some touchdown variants, man. That's I guess you
exactly.
you probably need Eckler to score too, though. But
it's just straight rooting for a blowout at that point.
Yep, two Josh Kelly touchdowns in garbage town sounds like a great way to take that down.
Exactly. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Pre-Lock Show. We will be back with more content throughout the week. Hit the like button on your way out. On behalf of Keith, myself, TJ Zwarych, and Devin, our producer, and the whole RG team, happy holidays, and we'll see you next time. Peace.